One of the most surprising announcements of this year's Summer Games Fest was Gears of War E-Day. For those on the outside who haven't followed Gears of War, the trailer looked to be just like any other Gears game. But for those who have been fans of the series for a while, and have been lovers of the series since the first game, Gears of War E-Day signified a momentous shift for the series, as it goes back to the franchise's golden age. At the height of the series, Gears of War influenced an entire generation of video games, helped prop up the Xbox 360 as the must-own console in the late 2000s, and bolstered Unreal Engine as the graphical powerhouse it is today. But deep at the heart of the game is a story about brotherhood and duty, as characters Marcus Phoenix and Dominic Santiago face unparalleled horror with humanity. Hi, my name is Jay, and these are the Gaming Essentials. When Gears of War first came out, I was only 7 years old. Even though it was such a mature game that I had no business playing at the time, the game left a huge impact on me due to its amazing graphical fidelity and its scary monsters. And all throughout my adolescence, Gears of War remained a staple in my Xbox library. But with the announcement of Gears of War E-Day, I wanted to jump back into the original Gears of War, a game that I had not played ever since I was a teenager. The Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3 generation of video games is a hugely important era to me, as games like Halo 3, Batman Arkham Asylum, Assassin's Creed 2, Call of Duty Black Ops, Uncharted, and Gears of War formed my love for video games. These games featured fast-paced, edge-of-your-seat gameplay, but also featured moving, cinematic experiences that had not yet been seen before. And they were also hubs for my friends and me to gather, share a laugh, and style on one another in-game. But as I revisit these games as an adult, I've gained a new appreciation for them in terms of their elegant simplicity and ability to still immerse the player in rich experiences without taking control away from the player. These games were able to tell captivating movie-like stories, but at the end of the day, they were still fun, experimental games that prioritized fun above all else. No matter if you've never played a Gears of War game, or can execute a perfect reload like it's second nature, join me as I talk about the original 2006 classic and how it changed games and myself forever. Gears of War is most known for being one of the first games to perfect third-person cover-based shooting. To some, that combination of words might seem like complete mumbo-jumbo. And yeah, it kind of is. But that's because the style of gameplay and combat has become so prevalent in our modern gaming world that it's almost become universal and even commonplace. In games like The Last of Us, the modern Tomb Raider trilogy, and even the upcoming Star Wars Outlaws, the camera is pulled out away from the main character as the character ducks and hides behind cover, occasionally peeking out to fire at enemies. Gears of War in 2006 was the progenitor of this kind of gameplay. While there were third-person shooters before this, Gears of War made this style of combat popular. It made the player feel like they're right in the midst of these intense shootouts, having to move and weave in and out of cover to hit their opponents, and players pop their heads out and aim down the barrels of their guns, just like in the movies. Not to mention that the animations of characters vaulting and rolling out of cover were ahead of their time, helping to give Gears of War a sense of realism. Again, all of these features might seem mundane in today's gaming landscape, but at the time these features were groundbreaking, helping to pave the way for important games in the future, like The Last of Us and Uncharted. Gears of War also had a huge impact on video games because of its graphics and visual design, which can still be felt today. Gears of War was one of the first video games to use the graphics engine called Unreal Engine 3. Game engines are the backbones of all video games, as these engines provide developers with the tools to design characters, lighting, cinematics, graphical processing, and so much more. And Gears of War was practically an early tech demo that showcased what was possible with the newly developed Unreal Engine 3 and what was possible on newer consoles. Soon after, dozens of games would eventually develop their future titles using the Unreal Engine. All 3 games of the Mass Effect trilogy, Mirror's Edge, Spec Ops: The Line, and many of the Mortal Kombat games, for example, were all made using Unreal Engine 3. Today, the Unreal Engine has become a powerhouse, not only in the gaming industry, but also in the film industry, helping even to power the technology used in movies and TV shows like The Mandalorian. And what helped get it there was the popularity of Gears of War. But Gears of War also helped to inspire a visual design that, for better or worse, became an industry standard. This kind of visual design is best seen in games like Spec Ops: The Line and id Software's Rage. These are games where the colors are more muted, focusing on gray, orange, and brown colors, and where environments are desaturated. The design of game characters during this time also changed as games created more bulkier, gruff, macho characters, which became prevalent throughout the Xbox 360 and PS3 era video games. Sure, Gears of War wasn't entirely responsible for creating this visual style, and many of these games simply just copy what other games are doing as well, but Gears of War is definitely one of the early adopters of this visual style that, for some, became an overused look that game developers couldn't shake. Even though Gears of War is typically seen as an over-the-top, masculine adrenaline rush series, I think that outlook is very diminishing, as there are many more layers to the game's story and characters. It's a game that is, yes, action-packed and filled with intense moments, but it is also funny, scary, and will later become emotional. While the first Gears of War game doesn't have many of the heartfelt and tragic moments that will later come to define the series, the first game does have a large focus on scares. At the time, these were frightening monsters that would definitely keep me up at night as a little kid. Monsters like the Corpser and the Berserker are portrayed in this game as more frightening, heart-pumping, and drenched in shadows. I remember facing up against the Berserker as a child, being trapped with it in small, tightly packed rooms and jumping up and down with tension, trying not to get run over. It doesn't help that the sound design of these monsters can really make your skin crawl, as the Berserker charges at you, making growling and screeching noises that sound like a feral animal, seeking to tear right through you. Even though Gears of War is technically pretty light in the story department, it's got it where it counts. The game focuses on Marcus Phoenix and Dominic Santiago, 2 close friends and allies who have one another's backs. And at the start of the game, when the evil subterranean monsters, known as the Locust, have already exacted a toll on humanity after 14 years of fighting, the main character, Marcus Phoenix, is seen rotting in jail after deserting his post in a failed attempt to save his father. Dominic Santiago comes to rescue Marcus and gets him back in action, even though Marcus doesn't want to work for the military group, which also put him in prison in the first place. There is a lot of lore, world building, and character backstory tightly compacted into this relatively short game. Just look at the Greco-Roman inspired architecture. In this sci-fi world, the Greek and Roman opulent architecture shows how the society was once proud and prosperous, but that wealth and arrogance were what led to their downfall. Even the comic relief characters, Cole and Baird, have interesting backstories and unique dynamics with the other characters that also give levity and humor to an otherwise intense game.
How's it going, Baird?
Oh, it's bullshit. Somebody here figured out that Cole played thrashball. Now it's all, oh, Coltrane, tell us all about that play again. And, hey, number 83, sign my shirt. Where the hell are you guys?
It's not just guns, blood, and explosions. There are interesting stories for those who want to look into it. And there is so much room to explore here that I cannot wait for Gears of War E-Day, when the developers might actually flesh out some of these moments early on in the timeline. The Gears of War series has shifted continuously since its first debut. Over time, it's gotten more complex, with newer characters, more heartfelt moments, and more emotional themes. Yet, there's a reason why this franchise is going back to its roots and going back to the franchise's beginnings. While these games eventually became known as big blockbuster action games, what made them special in the first place was a focus on gritty combat and sympathetic characters who are more than just cogs in a machine. Even though Gears of War 2 and 3 will later eclipse the first entry, there's still something special about the first Gears of War. Yes, it's much shorter, simpler, and less nuanced, but there's no doubting the impact and legacy this game has had on the entire gaming industry. It helps set the standard for third-person action-based combat, and the game's visual style influenced an entire generation of video games. It's a game that holds a spot near and dear to my heart, and the hearts of many other gamers like me. This is why I think Gears of War is a gaming essential. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, feel free to give it a thumbs up and comment down below mentioning which is your favorite Gears game. My personal favorite is Gears of War 2. Make sure to subscribe for even more of the best that video games have to offer.